Imagine a time when every horizon held mystery. Every step was a leap into unknown. Now, this was just the reality for our earliest ancestors as they ventured out in the world. Their journey spanned across continents and generations, often with daunting challenges. This epoch in the history of humanity is of courage, adaptability, and of spontaneity. So let's begin. Picture green, endless rolling plains with mountains and streams nearby. It is abundant with all kinds of flora and fauna. And now here you hear the drums rolling as sapience was proclaimed by the ape to all the world. Now the poor animals bowing didn't know it back then that the sapiens were so cruel that they would dominate all those animals to their will, or rather say, they would kneel them and shush them all. Now, these sapiens were not at all idle. They were always industrious. They crafted many things as they were enticed by every single object around them and preoccupied with the idea of using them and manipulating them to whatever context they required. And hence, they created rafts, paintings via extracting colors, and they also made many numerous tools and weapons for survival. Now, we all know these skills were required for survival in a better and volatile world of nature. The nature is full of bounties, but it is also full of threats. To evaluate those threats and to assess the environment, curiosity was our tool. Whereas, to respond to all those external demands, creativity was our tool. Both these tools help in enhance survival to the environment that had so many threats, and yet the human beings overcame all the hurdles. Now they decided to explore out of their world. So they saw that the map they had to traverse was not the same as we see now. The earth went through constant phases of cooling and warming. That is, in the cooling phase, the water would get trapped in the ice and hence the land available was much more. Whereas in the warming phase, the water would get more due to the ice being melted and hence the lands would get flooded. So this was the map they had to traverse. Broadest formulations speak of two routes, either the Levant, that is from West Asia, or from Arabia, that the human beings ventured out in the world to Europe and Asia. Another braver group traveled to Australia via rafts, as you can see it here, whereas another traveled to Siberia and then to Alaska via the Bering Strait, which was now land just because the ice age, and hence the whole world was sapienized. And they lived happily ever after. Well, did they? Can Scrat for once in his life be stable? No. This time his pursuit of acorn led to the final meltdown of the ice age. Yes, it can be the next part. And yes, due to this meltdown, all the islands, all the land masses melted just because of the flooding. All the settlements and ecosystems were destroyed. The Sundaland, that is the collective landmass of Southeast nations, broke into many islands that we see in Indonesia, Philippines, etc. And these floods are recounted in many tales, as we saw in the earlier talk, that about Manu and the Matsya and the Noah's Ark. Now, I know you all must be feeling like this. You would have this state of mind that you are so bored of just an history lesson and all of the story doesn't make sense. Yes, it won't make sense until it lives like it. What we learn from it, what we gain from it, gives us insights. And that is what we call history. And I have the major findings from history, from this anecdote, which can be better illustrated from another example about Napoleon. Well, Napoleon was a world conqueror, crazy sapien, who had much military reforms. His armies had small units which were self-sufficient against the Prussians, who had large armies that were moving in columns behind each other and was heavy artillery that needed long supply lines. Now, Napoleon was very victorious among them as his army not only had physical agility but mental agility. And this shows the typical forms of thinking that we see, which are the linear thinking, that is, thinking that same set of responses would help in respective problems, or a similar approach is cyclic thinking, in which we expect that what has happened in the past would happen in the future. So we have to expect it to use the same set of responses. But these all are very harmful, as we saw in the case of Prussians. They went behind each other linearly and always in each battle. This was harmful for them, but for Napoleon, the flexible thinking helped. He went away from the conventionality and saw that wider perspectives and ideas help us more and give us fresh view of what we can do and what we cannot. So, reflecting the journey of the human migration, we see not only physical crossing of landscapes, but a mental evolution of how the world was perceived and modified by the sapiens. Just as they faced geographical barriers, we faced mental blocks in our perception of situations and the typical form of thinking which characterizes them. These not only hinder the complete picture of the situation around, but also help in hindering and avoiding due to the cognitive distortions as we discussed earlier. So, what I can give you the solution is to expand your comfort zone, because it gives you more exposure and experiences which get integrated in the larger experiment of spontaneity. You can see here, curiosity, creativity are the main drivers of spontaneity. By going with them, we can do anything. So I would like to end with a quote by Napoleon that if you don't know how far you can spread your wings, you won't know how far you can fly. So, fly my birds. Thank you.